Hey, welcome everybody to the 40 Finance channel. We know that we've had some market weakness here in November, a little bit of selling off, and maybe the potential for even more selling in December, depending on which side of the fence you sit on that topic. And since the market has sort of established this kind of, risk to the downside sentiment right now with all the factors floating around us, thought I'd jump into TipRanks. We'll do a stock screener looking for stocks where the analyst consensus is actually to the downside. Now, this is just a short-term view that we're talking about here, arguably over the next 6 to 12 months. But these are all stocks where the analyst price targets are less than the stock's current price. All right, so here we are in TipRanks, and I'm using their stock screener tool, which is under here in the menu. If you're interested in learning more about TipRanks, my affiliate link is in the description. And I've set this up basically to talk about the stocks that I'm most familiar with. So it's not a comprehensive list, if you will. But here's some of the screeners. We're looking for medium to mega cap stocks. Small and micro cap stocks are always volatile. And frankly, I've never really felt like price projections are something that you can do accurately at that level. And in today's market conditions, I'm just going to skip them entirely. Then we have this upside to downside filter that I've put in, and you can see I've only clicked downside, and this is more of like a consensus price target. So when we get into the meat of each stock, you will notice that, there's some analysts who think that these have higher price targets, but the general consensus is to the downside. All right, next we're going to focus on sectors that I'm familiar with, consumer goods, financial, healthcare. I don't do a lot of healthcare on this channel, and I don't own any standalone healthcare stocks. But since we're in the large caps, I'm going to include it here. What I really don't get into on healthcare is, small cap pharmaceuticals, things like that. But we'll include it today just for fun. Then we've got services and, of course, technology. All right, so let's see what we have on the board here. And it looks like 149 stocks have potential price downside. I have sorted it here by market cap. And first on the list here is Apple, currently at 169. And the price target upside downside for this one looks around 167. So that's even probably higher than I would have guessed. So let's take a look at Apple. And I'm just going to skip down to the most recent price target updates because that does affect the consensus. And we'll go back 2 weeks, 15 days ago here, where you did have a hold at 132. You actually had a sell of 90, which is interesting. Then a hold of 142. But you do have a handful of folks that are coming in at buy. So 180, 185, and 175. So as we look at this, I would say maybe Apple's price consensus is being affected by some of these low balls here. So 132, 90, 142. But it doesn't look like, generally speaking, there's this huge bear case for it. But if you're buying Apple for immediate upside, you might be struggling a little bit if these analysts hit. All right, let's see what's going on with Tesla. You're at 1149. Consensus is 1054. But over the last 24 days, you've had two buys at 1400 and 1200 for the hold. Personally, as a person who looks a lot at fundamentals, I would probably be in the hold to take profit mode with Tesla. But you know what? I've been saying that for 2 or 3 years now, so who are we kidding? This one just keeps continuing to go up. If you average all these out, though, you do have a consensus that's coming in right about 1050. All right, how about Pfizer? This is interesting because, of course, we have the potential for extended vaccine needs depending on what goes on with the new variant. Got a price target of 53 on a stock that's at 54. Looking down here at the ratings, it's a lot of hold. So hold isn't necessarily bad. Hold just means if you bought in below the current price, then it makes sense to hang on to it. You do have a handful of downsides, but if we think about the most recent news that's come out, particularly with the variant, this is what makes TipRanks so helpful, is you can come in and actually see the timestamps on these analysts. So you have $52 hold, that's minus 5%. That was over a week ago, so pre-Thanksgiving. Then we have a 58 buy, approximately the same time. And our most recent, even though it's a hold, you have a price target of 60, which is still about 10% upside from here. So with Pfizer, while the average consensus is slightly below today's stock price, if you dig into the details here, you see that perhaps there's a trend that's changing because the difference between 28, 29 days ago, folks were in the 40s, and the most recent couple people have at least been in the 50s. It looks like the momentum, anyway, is going up for this one. All right, I'm going to jump down to Costco. So this is one that, in my opinion, if you do fundamental analysis, you're going to find Costco is relatively expensive on their valuation. However, they've really just knocked it out of the park over the past 12 months. So let's see, we've got a consensus of 531, current price of 542, and go down like we've been doing. 2 days ago, you had a top analyst come in and extend that price target to $600, which is up 10% from here. A couple weeks ago, you're at 535, which would actually be a very slight downside. And then if you want to get into the 3 or 4 weeks ago, you still have folks coming in, roughly 2%, up to 7% buys from here. So it looks like with Costco, we have to go down maybe pre-earnings into like last month or something where you start to see the 500s, and that's what's dragging this one down. So the headline says 531.84, but when you dig into the details a little bit and you get off of consensus and you get into individual opinion, there does appear to be perhaps some room to run up depending on if you believe the folks that are doing these ratings. All right, let's jump into AMD. Currently 157, consensus at 141. We have a few updates. Most of them, though, are looks like 3 weeks ago or so. However, the most recent, 17 and 6 days ago, those came in without price targets, but they are buy positions. And everything over about 3 weeks and beyond are buy positions with plus 5% upside, plus 8, plus 15, 11%. It looks like it's more like last month there was maybe a potential bearish view on AMD, or news came in and these prices got updated. But that's where you're starting to see some of the drag on the consensus estimate. So I think we're like 4 for 4 right now on stocks that, if you read the consensus headline, you're at 141, aka below the current price. But when you dig into individual positions, it does look like most of these so far do still have some upside from an analyst perspective. All right, let's check Moderna. Currently 317. You got a consensus of 348. And let's see what's going on in Moderna since the update for the new variant. 9 days ago, you had a hold with minus 1%. Now, 6 days ago, 348 and a buy side. But just 2 days ago, you got a price target of 325 with a hold. Now, that is 2% up from where this price is right now, though. So with Moderna and Pfizer, it kind of surprised me a little bit because if they do need to make a new vaccine, suddenly that could be a slightly new revenue stream for them. It's hard to really understand it at the scale that they need to produce it. But it looks like, at least for now, it's not a huge upside from an analyst point of view. All right, let's look at Lam Research in the semiconductor market. And if you've been paying attention to semis, you know that there's a lot of concern about shortage. There's also an increase in demand. So theoretically, you would say probably great market conditions for Lam, but from a consensus standpoint, it looks like it's reached its top, minus 2.87% downside potential here. Let's check the latest updates though. 17 days ago, we'll start here. You've got a buy at 750, that's plus 5%. You have a buy at 700, which is essentially where you are here today. And over at UBS, you got 765 9 days ago. That's plus 8%. Now keep in mind on some of these single digits, those are projections for, they're supposed to be for 12 months. But I usually say, 6 to 12 months, because what ends up happening is, we'll see basically 4 earnings reports, right, that will come through. So even though it's upside that's projected for some of these stocks we're talking about, when you're in single digits, it doesn't take a whole lot to sway that another way. And then, of course, you have to think about single digit upside compared to what other opportunities that you have. All right, next up we have Ford, currently at 2017, consensus target of 19. And let's see what we got here. We've got 3 updates over the past 23 days. You've got a $20 hold, a $22 buy, and then actually the most recent 8 days ago is a $12 sell, minus 40% downside. So, and if you go down a little bit into last month, you see most folks are in that 20 range. It looks like the $12 sell here is certainly the outlier compared to what other folks are projecting. All right, one more here. Let's talk about Roblox. You got a price of 122, consensus view of 116. And we'll check our fresh updates. Basically, 2 weeks ago, you've got a 125, which is plus 2%. You've got a 150, plus 22. You got a 134 at plus 10. Then if you look backwards a little further, 23 days ago last month, that's where you're getting these low balls at 82 and 92. So when I think about this average here, it's pretty obvious it's being influenced by old updates. And that's exactly why TipRanks is valuable, because you can go in and see, well, last month for a company like Roblox feels like a long time ago. And it does appear anyway that the most recent updates have a slightly better price target if you're bullish on this one. All right, so we went into the stock screener trying to target companies that had price targets below today's price, right? Concept being to protect against downside. But I think the most interesting part was the stocks that we pulled out of there to look at further, like the recent momentum, including a time period that has seen the markets kind of melt down a little bit. Those price targets were still up a little bit. So always keep in mind that the consensus can be dramatically influenced by the high and the low, obviously. And use a tool like TipRanks if you're nervous to go in and see, well, what's the most recent information? What have we seen? Has there been an acquisition? Is there rumors of an acquisition? It makes a big difference in these companies when they make partnership agreements like that, or they decide to make some small changes in the companies. And this is why when you follow a stock and things feel negative, sometimes you need to go out there and dig and make sure that you still have some positive news coming, which I think is what we saw in the majority of these cases. All right, guys, let me know what your opinion is on the stocks we looked at today, if you're interested in any of them. As always, if you liked the video, give me a like, share with your friends, all the things. We'll see you on the next one.